Good morning and happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to the Dynasty on YouTube channel. I'm your host, Michael Bauer. The best in the business is live and back in business, joined by the mock draft crew, I guess you could call us. We got Nate Christian over here and the Bobcat, Bob Van Duzer. Bob, how are you today? And I just want to say one thing before we get really started.
I'm swell. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Wisconsin. It's actually decent weather today. So we were in the, like -25 with wind chill for about a week.
Beautiful.
So, and today it was 21 when I woke up this morning. So it's supposed to be like 30 today. So it's nice.
For those of you who aren't familiar with Bob is a big fan of beautiful days, outdoor natures, sunsets and sunrises.
And really just enjoys sitting by the river and just watching the sunrise.
He's a very deep, prophetic person.
Yes.
Meditating.
Yes, I am.
Calming down, very relaxed.
Yes. I am the most relaxed person you've ever met in your life.
I will say that personal interaction with Bob is always extremely pleasant as well. These are compliments.
No credit.
But today we're going to be doing a multitude of things. We're going to be talking about the Senior Bowl that happened yesterday. I hope everybody got a chance to watch it. We're going to be doing some mock drafts too. So were any of these seniors able to scale up in the draft process and just kind of, do some good things? What's so funny, Bob? I'm just talking.
Nothing.
But hey, listen, it's Sunday. You know what? We're going to have a good time today.
Yes.
The football season is almost over. We have one more, if you want to count what they're doing with the Pro Bowl,
we don't
game.
Come on.
Are you excited about that?
I love anything.
Just do away with it.
I love anything and everything. The more content out there, the better we are. I mean, if you don't like the Pro Bowl, it's fine. You don't have to watch it.
I won't.
Exactly. And that's fine. I might not even watch the Pro Bowl, but you know what? There's probably one highlight that's going to come out of a flag football game that's going to make SportsCenter top 10. And you know what? That's what it's all about. It's like golf. When I got in golf, I'm terrible the entire time, but I hit one good shot. I'm like, okay, that was $80 well spent.
All righty. All right. Good stuff. So, gentlemen, what do you want to start with first? Do we want to start with get the mock going and just kind of sprinkle in some Senior talk?
We're actually still waiting on some participants in the mock, so we can start talking some Senior Bowl. I know our patrons are sleeping in today. It seems like
what is up
on this Sunday morning.
And if you're in this live stream and you're not in the Patreon and you want to mock, it's the perfect time.
Let's
jump right in there.
Now's a great time.
There you go.
Never been a better time to be a Patreon than right now.
That is true. You could DM me directly, and I will actually see it. So, and Gator making a good point. 2 live streams already this year. Don't get used to that, bud. Okay. I plan on doing like 2 or 3 more.
Hey, we're on pace for 12 this year.
That's
way ahead of last year.
About 10 too many. No, we're gonna. I think around draft time we'll do what we did last year. I mean, we might actually do a few more around draft time than we did last year. Maybe like 1.
That's the plan.
Yeah. So
I love this that we're going to be doing today. Live mock drafting, just continuous mock drafting. We're going to have Mike here for at least 6 mocks. So
I'm doing 6 mocks today. Janet turned the TV off because she said she was watching this on the TV. I'm not doing 6 mocks. This woman will come upstairs and murder me. I promise you. It's family day today, guys. So listen,
that's why you're here.
Yeah, that's why we're here. We're mocking. So let's start up while we're waiting for this. We got 2 more people that need to get in here. So my man Derek with a new Avi on Sleeper. That's an interesting one. So
we do have some questions rolling in. Do we want to address some of these comments and stuff?
Sure.
So one thing I do want to touch on right away, our buddy Rubber Bandit posting, kind of glad Xavier Hutchinson didn't do anything yesterday. Don't want my league mates on him. I will say, yes, it's also kind of concerning that he got a little bit of buzz throughout the week, but not as much as you kind of like to hear. You like to hear that guys you like are doing well at the Senior Bowl. Because, no news is not good news when you're at the Senior Bowl. You want your guys that you really like to have good news coming out. There were several guys that had so much buzz throughout the week during practices that it was really encouraging. Xavier Hutchinson had about 1 day where he was getting a lot of good hype. I still like him a lot. I'm not, not concerned over not having more hype, but I'm kind of in the same boat. Unlike some people, like, let's say, Tyjae Spears, who maybe increase his draft stock by a full 2 rounds in rookie drafts.
For sure.
What do you guys think?
Same with Tank Dell. I think we can very quickly say that Tyjae Spears and Tank Dell are the two true winners of the Senior Bowl. And with both of them, it's actually more so the Senior Bowl practices and the week building up, because neither one of them did a ton during the game. And we can talk about some of the guys that started during the game later. But Tyjae Spears, he was already starting to get some hype before the Senior Bowl from film guys who were starting to get into their prospects. I know that Mike and I talked about him last week, and we were both very excited about Tyjae Spears, but we did not expect the hype that would come with this week of Senior Bowl practice, where Tyjae Spears has not just now made himself, a fringe 3rd, 4th rounder, but some people are taking him, and putting him into their top 5, top 6 running backs. And whether that's right or not, I'm not going to say, because I do like Tyjae Spears. I do have about 7 other guys ahead of him, I believe. But Tyjae Spears has gotten into the day 2 category for me. I think he is a fringe 3rd round pick. We'll see how many running backs actually get selected. Even though I have him graded as a 3rd rounder, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a 3rd rounder.
Yeah.
And then with Tank Dell, he played so well. Bob, I'm sorry to steal this off your notes, but he played so well he left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
he said there's no reason for me to play. I just guaranteed myself day 2 draft capital, and he was not looking at day 2 draft capital coming into this week. He was a 4th, 5th rounder pretty easily because of his size. Yeah, he was productive at Houston, but that size, 6 foot and 5'8" and 170 pounds, if that. People we're not going to be looking at Tank Dell, but hey, who's been talking about Tank Dell for about a month now?
You, Nate.
That's true.
This guy.
So proud of you. I will say, before you steal my other note on him, I think Tank Dell is going to be what anybody wants Jalen Hyatt to be, because I think he has all the same similar speed and things like that. There's going to be some size concerns with Jalen Hyatt too, but Dell, from watching practices, going back and watching more film on the guy, actually just super crisp in terms of how he runs routes, and every bit of electric and speedy as you want Jalen Hyatt to be. So, in my opinion, Dell is what we hope Hyatt turns into, is what Tank Dell already is. And there is the size concern for sure, but with how clean he plays, I'm not super concerned.
Yeah, this comment we just had up about Xavier Hutchinson not doing much, and hopefully that helps us out. I kind of feel the way about Tank Dell. He had a great practice, and people are more on him, but he hasn't had the hype that Tyjae Spears has had coming out of this week. Not quite that much. Tyjae Spears is certainly the winner of Senior Bowl practices. But I think because Tank didn't play in the game, he might not get the continuous hype that Tyjae Spears is going to get over the next couple of months. I think Nathaniel Tank Dell is going to get kind of lost in the mix again, and we'll be able to pick him up continuing as a value, probably in the 3rd round. I don't think he's going to find himself in the 2nd round of rookie drafts just yet.
Come on, Joe. Really?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yep.
I'm going to disagree with that one a little bit. I think Tank's, I don't know. I'm not as concerned about his body type, Tank. I mean, he plays a little bit more physical than Tutu, aka Chitarius, did. And I mean, I don't know. I understand the comp. I'm just going to politely disagree.
Yeah. I mean, I
don't think Tutu has the same refinement that
he did put
Tank
up
does,
good numbers at Louisville, though. Tutu did.
Sure. That's fine. We are full on the mock, Nate. If you want to get your screen ready and we can get this thing rolling.
I would love to.
I even went and I turned off all my notifications for all 3 mocks right away, just in case.
All right. Nate, I would love if you would do the same so we don't have any issues.
We're good.
All right. Let's get this one up.
So you guys know CJ Stroud's on the board?
Okay. Good to know. I am going to start this mock.
4 rounds, Bob.
And
4 rounds.
Ooh,
we are going crazy. We are in the month of February, 4-round February.
Wilding.
4-round February.
March will be more rounds. March. I mean,
can we do 6 in April?
No. All right. The mock has started.
That is the most Bob answer ever, by the way. No.
Yeah. Beautiful
And-
landscape, Nate.
Sorry.
This is super
Max,
flex, right?
man. Max.
What's that? This is super flex, yes.
Well, I don't really care because these quarterbacks suck. Hey, listen, you know what? People might be like, yeah, take quarterback at 1-2. No, you really don't. You could pick whoever you want, wherever you want. I'm going to take a guy who I think could be a bona fide stud at the 102, and that's Jahmyr Gibbs. I saw a couple mocks yesterday where he was projected to go 31st to the Eagles. By the way, there's no 32nd pick, so that means that people doing these mocks are predicting to win the Eagles win the Super Bowl. Last time people did that, they won it. So prepare for a very obnoxious Michael Bauer in the next few weeks if that happens.
You
Even
have
more
him
so than
everywhere you
normal.
have
I
him.
know. I had to say that even more so than normal. So but I love Gibbs, man. And he brings a different skill set to the table than Bijan Robinson does. You know, Bijan Robinson, he's the perfect prospect. Let's be real. But Jahmyr Gibbs' receiving ability in a PPR format puts him over the top for me. I'm happy to have him at 102. Bob, a very on-brand pick at the 103.
Yeah, I can't help but draft JSN. I like the quarterbacks in this class, at least the first two. Young and Stroud are both interesting, and I have a lot of time to maybe change my tune, but I'm such a big fan of JSN. I'm not sweating, the missed season due to injury, not sweating that as much. I think JSN is the far and away wide receiver 1 in this class, and I think people are just worried that because the injury plagued season, we shouldn't give him the credit he's owed. And I think there's always an argument that quarterbacks should go first. And at this point, I'm just not excited drafting these quarterbacks. I think the first pick is Bijan. The next 2 picks are, or the next 4 picks are this just menagerie of Gibbs, JSN, Stroud, and what I'm assuming will be Young here at this pick. But I just think that however you want to split it, one way or the other, it's 2 tiers, however you look at it. But I can't help draft JSN here.
Listen to Bob with the vocabulary.
Yeah,
Menagerie.
I am a wordsmith.
It's not the first time I've heard him use that word, I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure it isn't. Maybe
Give it up for the public school system in Wisconsin, everybody.
Hey, I went to private school, actually. Thank you.
That's why.
I
That's why
love
he uses
learning
words
new
like
things about
menagerie.
Bob. Tell me more about private school.
So no, we don't have to do that.
Did you wear a uniform, Bob?
No, God, no.
Okay.
Really?
No.
Was
I
it
did.
like a parochial school?
Yes.
Really? Interesting. I love learning new things about Bob. Bob is, for whatever reason, guys, in case you don't know, Bob is one of the most fascinating people in the world to me. I don't know why. Everything he does just fascinates me.
Cheese makes you smart.
It's true.
Cheese makes
Then
you
my
smart.
daughter is going to be a genius. Her diet consists of mac and cheese sticks,
Can't confirm.
cheese puffs, slices of cheese.
Cheez-Its?
No,
Actually,
Cheez-Its.
There's no such thing as a Cheez-Its. Just there's a Cheez-It or there's Cheez-It crackers. That's what we learned during the Cheez-It Bowl for college football this year.
Wow.
Cheez-It came out and said there's no such thing as Cheez-Its. Once it's a plural, it is Cheez-It crackers. Just saying what they said.
Touche. So moving on here, we have CJ Stroud, Bryce Young come off the board after my JSN pick. Then we have Jordan Addison. Nate, is he still your wide receiver 1 in this class?
He still is at the moment, just because I have a higher grade on him from tape. And I love JSN, but I'm still on the fence. And I'm sorry, Bob, because I really don't want to be. I want JSN to be my number 1 wide receiver. Believe me, coming into this offseason, I was so excited about him. I want him to be just. I can't commit to it yet. I just want to see more of the draft process. I've said many times on this show that he's probably going to be my wide receiver 1 by the end of the day, but I just need to see it first. When we're going into the NFL draft, I like to mitigate risk.
Yep.
And right now there's just some more risk involved with JSN than there is with other guys. And I have to take that into account. I still have him as my wide receiver 2 though, because this isn't the elite wide receiver class that we saw like last year.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm picking up so much value here at the 110. I actually can't believe it. But someone just left Tank Bigsby on the board.
Yeah.
And that's an easy pick for me. Easy pick for me at the 110.
I agree. I love that pick at the 110, by the way.
Yeah. incredible value, I think, here. Tank Bigsby is my running back 3 in this class. I think he brings the ability to be a workhorse running back in the NFL. He checks all the boxes as a receiver, as a runner, as a guy who can make chunk play. Hey, Tank Bigsby, I'm going to have him everywhere. I don't expect to pick him up here in the 110 once the NFL draft happens. I think he's a second-round pick. I'm hoping the NFL agrees with me. But either way, as he's going to get that day 2 draft capital, and he's going to be a guy that I'm targeting in every draft.
Ooh. All right. Speaking of a guy who already went off the board, Will Levis. If Will Levis goes number 1, does he move up to your QB1? I say probably not, unless he gets in a super QB-friendly system. This guy needs to learn how to, or be taught how to read the field and process plays and things like that. Has a lot of upside in just, what he can do throwing the ball. But I think I read in a report that somebody said it best, was that he's not a passer yet. He's just a thrower. And I think that's an awesome way to describe what he can do. I like Levis to a fault for what he has as an arm talent, but as, reader of the field, lacks a lot.
Can I address this real quick?
Absolutely.
I saw Levis getting mocked in a bunch of places to the Colts. And if Shane Steichen, the Eagles offensive coordinator, does take that Colts head coaching job and they draft Will Levis, I'm definitely moving him up my board.
Sure.
Looking at what Shane Steichen has done with Jalen Hurts and making him become a competent passer, the decision-making has been much better. If he could do it with Jalen Hurts, he could definitely do it with Will Levis. So, look, I'm not throwing shade. I'm being honest. What?
I felt like there was a lot of shade being thrown.
No, listen, Jalen Hurts
under
has
a
made
shady tree.
Great strides between his first and second year in the NFL. I'm sorry, first and second year as a full-time starter. He's made great strides. I mean, last year, and that was also a lot of it. They redid how they did their offense. They stopped throwing so much. When Sirianni let Steichen have the play calling and more time with Jalen Hurts, he became a better quarterback. So if he could do the same thing with Will Levis, man, I'm on board. Definitely.
For sure. Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't hate that move, that maneuver. That's an interesting one. We also have another question talking quarterback. It is super flex after all. Stroud and Bryce Young versus Deshaun Watson. I think I'll take Deshaun Watson here, a guy we've already seen perform enough. And I think Stroud and Bryce is kind of what you're hoping turn into Deshaun Watson. And I think Deshaun Watson right now is, I was going to say getting a bad rap for his final finish of the season, but I think he's got a bad rap for enough things that we're not going to discuss here today. But I think just people are real down on him because of the season he had to end the season. Nate.
Where'd the mock draft go?
Nate. That's
just trying to.
We forgive you.
Clicking the wrong button.
We love you, Nate.
It's okay. But yeah, so I'll take Deshaun Watson between those two quarterbacks. I feel like I sucked up a ton of value at the 2-3 with Zach Charbonnet falling down to me. I'm a big fan of that. I think there's a ton of value sliding down the board right now.
Did I snipe you?
No, I mean, I would have taken Downs if he was there over Charbonnet, but I mean, I'm still elated to have Charbonnet at the 2-3. So I mean, I'm pretty happy with that overall. But we see this board is shaking out quite a bit differently than we've seen a lot of boards shake out. I mean,
kind of like it.
Just rolling down the board.
You know what the difference is?
Go ahead.
The difference is quarterbacks.
Sure.
We had 4 quarterbacks go in the first round. We had Hendon Hooker go in the middle of the second. That's pushing a ton of talent down the board at other positions, at the running back, at the wide receiver position. I mean, we're picking up who I consider day 2 running backs in the middle of the late second.
Yeah.
Can't get much better than that. I'm actually excited to pick up running backs.
Yeah. There's some good ones here. Yeah, there's, we see, so after your pick at Tank, we see Anthony Richardson, full of upside. I think that's a good spot to pick him, especially if you were a competitive team that can afford to have somebody sit on their roster, maybe don't need somebody right this second. I think it's a great pace to have. I think we need to be patient with Richardson and hope he doesn't start right away because I do think he needs time. He's a little inexperienced, we'll say. Michael Mayer goes off at 112. We see Kayshon Boutte at the top of the second. Josh Downs, Zach Charbonnet, Zay Flowers, almost low for him with where we've seen him go in some recent mocks. Rashee Rice, another guy who was very quiet over Senior Bowl week. I think he had a good day 3. They were doing a lot more like end zone stuff. But
do you have an entire carafe of coffee with you?
I do.
Why
It's a
wouldn't
live
he?
stream. We're here for
Gotta be
the long
prepped.
run. Yeah, I
Gotta
can't go
be
downstairs
prepped.
and get coffee every single time I need coffee.
I mean, this is my
We're
fourth
here.
cup right now, so it's like I gotta kind of cut myself off after this, I guess. Well, my wife said
This is the
I
most important part of my morning.
Yeah, coffee
mock
is important.
drafts and coffee.
Mock drafts and
Yes.
coffee, man.
Mocks
Bob,
and
can we
coffee.
get that on a shirt on our new store?
I can probably do that. Speaking of new stores, in case you missed it, talking more about this draft, we got Hendon Hooker at the 2-6, which is way earlier than I think we've seen him go in most drafts, but I'm fine with it. I don't hate it. Probably going to be a second round NFL draft pick. Then we have Devon A. Chain going at the 2-7 after we saw him go at the 1-9 and the 1-12 last week. And I think that was in a one quarterback, so a little different circumstance, but still, it's pretty awesome value. Kendre Miller, one of my favorites, at the 2-8, awesome value. And then at the 2-9, Zach Evans, the favorite running back on this channel. Definitely, we are a very pro Zach Evans channel around here.
Yes.
Especially with what he does, especially what he does with his excellent vision, and with what Ole Miss gives him to work with. Great player for stuff and stat sheets all day long.
For the record, two things. Let's see. He is my second lowest ranked running back, and also the only thing that stinks about this mock is we can't draft Drake London again. It's the only thing I have to say.
Oh,
big bird, Mike. That's big.
Where? Okay. Can someone tell me where that came from?
I'll tell you later. It's a Patreon exclusive. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have missed that one.
It's okay.
I need a new job so I can be tuned in to stuff like that.
Right. So Nate, you take one of our favorite tight ends in this class.
Yeah. Once again, great.
Maybe the tight end one in my heart in this class is Dalton Kincaid. Talk about him. Talk about this pick. Whatever you want to dive into.
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid. He's been getting some first round hype. At worst, he's certainly a second round pick in the NFL draft, and he's what a lot of people consider to be one of the a stereotypical modern NFL tight end with his pass catching ability to create separation, yards after the catch, handle volume, playing out of the slot. So Dalton Kincaid, he's going to go somewhere where they're going to give him the ball, and that's going to lead to fantasy production. So I think even in non-tight end premium leagues, I think he's worth at least a mid-second. So to pick him up here at the 210, I think is great value. Tank and Dalton Kincaid, these are two guys I would have expected to get kind of in the mid part of each of these rounds, and I picked them up near the end. So I think I've picked up a lot of value. Dalton Kincaid, I think, I like the three tight ends off the board. I think that's kind of the big three at this position this year. There's also another guy that I'm sure probably will come off this round who's actually the biggest of them all. And maybe that's a big four, but Dalton Kincaid definitely is going to be making an argument to be the tight end one in this class with the way that he has produced at Utah over the past couple of years. If he can have any semblance of that production in the NFL, he's going to be scoring a lot of fantasy points. So I just love the value I picked up so far. I did not expect to have such good players after 2 rounds, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I love that pick there.
I almost auto drafted, so that was pretty cool. I wasn't paying enough attention to my own pick being on the board. But so we have the aforementioned Jalen Hyatt, aka what Tank Dell already is. Then we have Cedric Tillman, Xavier Hutchinson, another great senior bowler that was kind of quiet. Mike, you went with Luke Musgrave, another senior bowler who had a little bit of hype throughout the, making some exciting catches in practice. Didn't do a ton in the game, which is fine. I mean,
well, he was on the team that got their rear ends kicked too.
True. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't think you can expect much from that game, considering the level of quarterbacks that were there. And I think you need to be tuned in more to practices than the game because more players are there, and that's I think what holistically the coaches like to look at more. But I like the pick here. I think this is an early-ish pick for where we've typically seen him go. I picked up Chase Brown, who did not have a good Senior Bowl week. I think maybe a fine game, but again, I don't weigh the game that much.
Yeah.
But had some troubles catching the ball, holding onto the ball. Not stuff you'd like to see. But I still, depending on where he gets drafted, that's going to be a big thing from here on out. And we have Raheem Jarrett, Darnell Washington, the YouTube comments favorites. Tank Dell, who we think is a winner, and back-to-back, we see Tyjae Spears, another winner of Senior Bowl week. I think a guy who, honestly, I'm surprised isn't going ahead of, most of the guys that were drafted. I probably should have taken him over Chase Brown in all honesty, but I was panicking because I was way late on the clock. So Tyjae Spears nailed Senior Bowl week. I think there's no other way to say it. I think coming in above 200 pounds is a big win for him, even before the Senior Bowl kicked off.
Definitely.
Or the week kicked off. 5'9", not as big of a deal when you're compact. You're just still over 200 pounds, but I think he's like 5'9" and a half, or pretty darn close. So whatever, you're splitting hairs either way. But then our boy Parker Washington. Some interesting names coming off the board. This has been a fun draft so far. Nate, who are you thinking about here? Or do you want to touch on any of these Senior Bowlers that we haven't really dove into yet? Maybe Musgrave or anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, Luke Musgrave, man, I've really enjoyed watching him. I picked up on him at the beginning of this season. Through his first 2 games played, I was like, man, this guy's killing it. Look at him. And then he unfortunately missed the rest of the season with an injury. But obviously the film has caught up where NFL scouts now are talking about Luke Musgrave as a potential first-round pick and certainly as a locked-in day 2 pick at this point. And with his athleticism, his size, his frame, and his safe hands, he's getting comped to Gesicki. He's getting comped to TJ Hawkinson. He's getting a lot of NFL pro tight end comps right now. And I think he deserves it. I think he deserves, being looked at as a possible, top 12 dynasty tight end at some point, landing spot dependent, because there are some good tight ends in this class. So he might get pushed down. But I think Luke Musgrave, with his ability to create separation and with his length, win contested catches, I mean, why can't he be a productive tight end in fantasy football? He can at least be, like I said, a top, it's not very hard to be a top 12 tight end these days in fantasy football. I think Luke Musgrave can certainly be.
The reason I took Luke Musgrave there, I did my scout on him this last week, and he has this uncanny ability. He runs these routes close to the line of scrimmage. He just has an ability to get lost in coverage and get wide open. Not a ton after the catch, but you know what? A lot of times in the NFL and in college, they're not going to ask the tight end to do a ton after the catch. Just get the ball, get the first down. He is physical enough. I like Luke Musgrave a lot. I told Nate, hot take, he might be my second favorite tight end in this class. I might like him a little bit better than Dalton Kincaid.
You like Dalton Kincaid and Luke Musgrave better than Michael Mayer? Is that what I heard?
No, I said he would be my second favorite.
Well, yeah.
So we go Mayer, Musgrave, Kincaid.
I will say the draft community is not, as a whole, super high on Michael Mayer as the consensus tight end 1. It's not where we started out this season, where Mayer was the tight end 1 and then everyone else. It is now between Kincaid, Mayer, Musgrave, and Washington. I mean, I've seen
tight end class, by the way.
It is a good tight end class. I've seen every single one of these guys ranked as a top 10, as a top, the top tight end in this class from different people. I've seen all four of those guys ranked in the top 100 prospects. These guys are, this tight end class is good. I mean, I've also seen Daniel Jeremiah, I believe, put out his rankings, and he's got the Clemson tight end. I think it's was it Will Davis? I want to say his name's Will Davis.
Oh no, I know who you're talking about. His name escapes me too.
Davis Allen.
Yeah,
very
Davis Allen.
Very white name.
Easy, Jesus.
Oh God. He's not wrong though. He's not wrong at all.
Davis Allen.
Right.
And he was a top 50 prospect for Daniel Jeremiah. And I'll be quite honest, I haven't watched Davis Allen at all yet.
Oh, this went exactly the way I had it planned. No, Rubber, you did not, man. Because look at this right here. I'm going to take him. Eric Gray.
Oh, you fucker.
Oh, hey, no cursing on YouTube.
Wow.
Listen.
Bob with the curse word on YouTube. What a lie. We don't have the 5 second. We don't have the 5 second
Part
delay.
of the reason I wanted to pick before Bob. Reasons like this. I think at the 4-2, you're getting Eric Gray at the 4-2 now, February 5th. In a month from now,
that'll change.
I guarantee you are not. This dude, you want to talk about vision. You want to talk about patience. We're just talking the decision making. He bangs through the hole at light speed. He's tough. He's physical. The spin moves and the receiving ability, they are all fantastic. He looked great at the Senior Bowl. I love Eric Gray. I finished my scouting on him last night. I can't remember if I filled out the scouting report or not because it was really, really late. But I love Eric Gray. And at the 4-2, sign me up. And look, Bob taking another Senior Bowl standout here.
Yeah, Michael Wilson, a guy that I don't think was really on anybody's radar until the Senior Bowl. I'm still not sure where he ends up getting drafted, but I mean, the big concern or the knocks with him was injury concerns. I mean, over Jesus Christ. Over the course of his, I think, last 3 seasons, he only played in like 14 games, I think it was, but he did produce when he was on the field, obviously against, less than above average competition, let's say. And, to see him at the Senior Bowl, super crisp in his route running. And that I think is, it reminded me, he had a certain suddenness. And I put in my notes that he reminded me of like a bigger Khalil Shakir. And that's not saying they're super similar player types or anything like that, but just that's the type of suddenness that, last year when Khalil Shakir was here, #bars, that was his suddenness in his route running really stood out to me. And I think that's something Michael Wilson had. He was winning consistently throughout the week, every single rep, most reps, getting separation, which is huge in today's NFL. He also has a decent amount of size. I think he's 6'2", over 200 pounds. So, I mean, when you have a guy like that can separate, getting some hype, I still don't know where he ends up drafted. I think he's maybe the back end of day 2 at this point, but more than likely day 3, but cemented some draft capital for himself, gives him a shot on a team at the worst.
I want to mention then here too, one thing, Tucker Kraft, people are like, oh, he's the next Dallas Goedert. Don't scout the helmet. There's a completely different skill set. Okay. I'm just going to say that. I want to talk about Kenny McIntosh real quick.
Yes.
People are going to be like, oh, he didn't put up a lot of numbers. Why couldn't he get on the field ahead of all these Georgia backs, blah, blah, blah. Kenny McIntosh is a fantastic wide receiving back. Little inconsistent sometimes with his hands, pretty decisive, strong runner, can get taken down a little easily at some time. But what I think he is a really good third down PPR back in the NFL. That's what he projects like to me right now. And Roschon Johnson, the one thing I want to say about him, pardon me, Nate, you had mentioned that we're talking about some people pegged him as a day 2 NFL pick.
Yeah.
There are times, and again, the NFL does not care about your fantasy team. A day 2 NFL pick does not necessarily mean fantasy success. And I think Roschon Johnson is the prime example of that. He's a guy that's going to move the chains. He's not going to get a lot of receiving work. He's probably going to be good to get a touchdown here or there in the red zone. I don't really think Roschon Johnson is going to be a super fantasy relevant running back. That's my thought on him.
Yeah, I don't horribly disagree with that. I think there you go. But our buddy Matty threw out the comp of a Jamal Williams ilk of type of player where he's, the second fiddle, but a very reliable NFL player. And I know King's in this draft. I don't know why he's not drafted.
Yeah, I think Roschon Johnson is a really good short yardage back and a guy that you could also give volume to. Like, if you need a spot starter to eat up 20 carries, hey, Roschon Johnson's your guy.
Give him Stetson Bennett.
Mike, you had compared him to Brian Robinson a little bit.
But not as good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I like Roschon Johnson. I have him graded out as a day 3 pick, but like a 4th rounder.
Yeah, that's about what I think too.
I think
there you go.
I have him.
He's a solid prospect who doesn't have many elite traits, but really doesn't have too many weaknesses either. Yeah. And that's the same thing that I said about Brian Robinson, same thing I said about Khalil Herbert. And we've seen that there's a role for those kind of players in the NFL. It might not be the top 12 running back in Dynasty, but it's going to be a player who's going to end up being in your flex spot a lot of weeks. So I think Roschon Johnson, with that, if he has 4th round draft capital, or hey, who knows if he's that day 2, but I think there's too many running backs in this draft to have everyone get day 2 draft capital. But if he gets that 4th round draft capital, even 5th round to a open backfield, I think there's some value there with Roschon Johnson this year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I actually, I think he has some elite handcuff upside where he's going to be a guy who contributes here and there, but when in a pinch, if the starter goes down, he's a guy who can fill in for a few weeks and rack up points. I don't think there's much of a outside of like a flex consideration, like you said, Nate. I like him a bit more than I think I like Brian Robinson because I think he's a better receiver of the ball. I think he's shown that pretty well throughout his career. And I do think he has some undersold athleticism to him too. So unfortunately broke his hand or broke a bone in his hand at the Senior Bowl. So, it's going to be, I think it's a toss up if he's going to be able to do any combine stuff, but that's unfortunate for his stock. That's not going to help him go day 2 if he's going to miss that as well. So just something to keep an eye on.
Ugh.
Nate with our boy.
Sorry, I couldn't hide that one, huh?
Going Stetson Bennett. Talk about it, Nate.
Yeah. Hey, Stetson Bennett gets a lot of hate.
Yes,
and I understand why.
Right.
He's not he's not Trevor Lawrence out there as NFL prospect, but production wise, he's better than Trevor Lawrence college wise, because this is a guy that's got two national championships. And we look at Georgia, they got a really good defense. And it's easy to say, yeah, Stetson Bennett, he's just a game manager, he's basically Jake Fromm or something like that. But you watch Stetson Bennett play, and there's many times when you watch him play and you think, that's an NFL throw. That's an NFL play right there. This kid can play in the NFL. Do I think he's a first rounder, a second rounder, a day 2 pick? No. I think he's a day 3 pick because of his size, his age. Just unfortunately, I mean, remember shades of Brandon Whedon over here.
Ooh.
But Stetson Bennett, he's athletic. He is athletic. He can run. He's going to, I think, surprise some people with his testing numbers. NFL likes guys who win football games.
Yeah.
And they like guys that come from blue blood programs like Georgia. People respect Kirby Smart, the coach there. Kirby Smart came from the Nick Saban tree, and he is the number 1 coach in college football at this moment. Nick Saban's still the GOAT right there. But right now, Kirby Smart's at the top of the world, and he chose Stetson Bennett. And Stetson Bennett, I think with the production that Kyle Shanahan's got out of Brock Purdy, kind of opens up a doorway for Stetson Bennett to have a legitimate shot. Because we're seeing now that, hey, if you have a good system and you have a quarterback that can protect the ball, still make plays, you can win games. Stetson Bennett could give that to a team. Is he going to go out there and put a team on his back in the NFL and, be like a guy that just pulls it out in the fourth quarter with not a lot of talent? Probably not. But you put Stetson Bennett in the 49ers system, you put Stetson Bennett in maybe the Dolphins system or something like that, where you have talent around him, I think he could be an NFL starter. And I think he's going to be a 4th, 5th round pick. I think a team's going to take a chance on him. And at that point, with what's left on the board, I'll take a chance on Stetson Bennett. Sure. My chances of him starting on my team are slim, but I think at this point he has as much upside as anyone else on the board.
I don't disagree.
I do.
Don't disagree.
I'll gladly take a shot on a wide receiver there instead of Stetson Bennett. I watched some film on him last night, and there's a lot to be desired as far as just some easy throws that he just underthrew, overthrew, wide open throws that he didn't see and ran for no gain or took a sack. So I would hope that a 25-year-old quarterback would have some better processing and decision-making. But Nate is correct to the point where he's won 2 national championships. He's going to be drafted because, he's got that dog in him. And playing for the Georgia Bulldogs, I guess, it's a double entendre. Oh, I nailed it.
Oh, my God.
Dad jokes.
Vocabulary around here today.
God. Dad jokes out the wazoo. Hey, Marco from the future. Hello from the present. So, yeah, I'm probably going to go lean somewhere else there personally, but I do not hate and I respect Nate's process. We're going to do the second one now?
We got to do the second one.
Let's knock out the second one.
Let me just stop sharing my screen for a second.
Oh, womp womp. Hi.
Sounds good.
Is everybody enjoying our live stream once a month so far? I'm not a fan of this at all.
Stop, Mike.
You got to chill, right?
No, this is the best. We love this.
It's not a bad time.
We got to fill this second draft up.
Yeah, I know. I haven't dropped the link yet, so that's on me.
Bob's slacking.
I know.
But hey, if you're a Patreon, you can get that link. Mike, I believe we had someone sign up during the live stream.
We did. Demand, welcome to the Patreon. I did make sure that he got in. I got him the Discord link. I haven't seen him hop in yet. I also haven't checked in a few minutes, so I don't know. Oh,
surprise, surprise. Gator is in this draft.
He was in the last one, too.
Jeez. Gator's working today, but he said, he'd be chilling in comments and,
he doesn't care. This is more important.
And I agree, Gator. This is way more important
Clearly more important
than paying your mortgage and putting food on the table for your family. They can.
Well, if you can do both.
Yeah,
you can do both.
I just want to say that Gator's oldest child, I believe, is going to the University of Kentucky. So if you'd like, you can now call Gator Wildcat. Because that might be his new cheering sake. There, we're gonna cheer for Kentucky, Gator.
Ooh, versus the Gators. Oof.
I gotta do that. We gotta
That's
call
gonna
a guy
be
out like that.
Should we get him one of those house divided flags?
Probably.
Yeah, I saw a house divided flag that had the Eagles and the Cowboys on it, and I'm like, how do you
survive in that house?
How do you get married?
What do you think the price is to move up from 103 to 102 in picks? I don't think it takes much because you're still in a similar tier, so it shouldn't take a whole lot, in my opinion. But
2.6.
You do have, I think that
210.
A second round pick. The second round pick, I think, is all it should
not
take.
An early one, unless you really, really need whoever's going to be at
whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. 1,000%. Let me catch this here.
No.
How big is the teardrop? What's that? Yeah, how big is the teardrop in wide receiver between first round to second? Honestly, the teardrop in my opinion, from JSN and Jordan Addison to the next tier is pretty significant. That's like top of the first round, back half of the second. So I think it's important to get your wide receivers early in this draft. I think there's going to be some value late while everybody's picking up like the back end of the top or running backs outside of the top 8. I think there's going to be some nice wide receiver value then, but I think in the meantime, it's going to be best to get wide receivers early, hit the running back value, slightly after that, then go back to wide receivers is going to be kind of the trend of most drafts.
In the draft we just did, in the second round, literally half of the picks were wide receivers. 6 of the 12 picks in the second round were wide receiver, while only 3 of the first round picks were wide receiver. So really, the depth of this wide receiver class is in the second round. Like you said, Bob, that top 2, and so for some people who really like QJ, it's going to be that top 3. But that's really, I think, all the guys that you expect to go in the first round. There might be some other guys that pop into the back end of the first, but those are the only 3 guys you're really expecting to see in the first round. We've even seen QJ fall into the second, but I think after the combine and he tests, incredibly well, which he sure will do, he'll be in the first round.
Another trade pick here, trade question here. I have the 101. Is it worth it to move down to get the 102, 103, 203, and a first next year?
Yes.
I think this is what you hope to get if you're moving out of the 101. So I think,
love it.
Instead of wanting a sandwich, go want that bundle instead of that one.
I think anytime you get 3 first round picks, we're going to get ready to move a player. And when you're telling me you're getting the 102, the 103,
2 early ones.
Sign me up.
Easy money.
Turn what would be Bijan into Jahmyr Gibbs, a quarterback of your choice, whoever you want it to 203, and then if you need a quarterback next year, Caleb Williams, Drake May, depending on where that pick falls next year. Hate to miss out on Bijan, but the compensation is definitely fair. No problem with that.
That's one where you just take it on the chin and deal with it.
Smash accept, as they say.
Yeah, smash accept. Yes.
All right, we need 3 more people for this mock draft.
Okay. I'm seeing if there's any other questions I missed. I'm sure there are.
See if we can antagonize people to get in here.
Mike, this one screams you because you love drafting quarterbacks in a 1 quarterback league.
True.
Thoughts on taking Stroud Young in the second round, Mike, not the back end of the first, in the second round in a 1 quarterback league. Bigger I can stash them on taxi than trade later for 24 firsts. I don't know that you'll get a 24 first for either of them later. In all honesty, I don't know. I think you might have better luck. You might have better luck trading the second for a 24 first straight up. You might have better luck with that, in my opinion.
I agree. I don't hate taking those players in the second round if you want to utilize them on your roster, but my whole process is never draft a player with the sole intent of trading them. You're doing yourself a disservice. 9 times out of 10, when you do something like that, you are guaranteed to lose value on that player. Almost guaranteed. So if I would personally, like Bob said, just trade that pick straight up for a 24 first or go in a different direction. So, and hey, look, in a 1 quarterback league, you still need quarterbacks too. So,
yes,
right,
that
2
is
more.
true. Tumas. Any other Senior Bowl takeaways, boys, while we're waiting for this mock to fill and I'm looking for more questions?
Sirodic
don't think I have.
Thompson is a banger from Texas Tech, running back, and he's a guy who doesn't get a lot of love because Texas Tech doesn't run the ball
I was
very
going to
much.
ask you about him.
But I'll tell you what, see, I started scouting him last year. Nate had him on the list as a potential guy, and he did end up coming back. Just a really, really hard running, physical running back. Probably going to be like a late day 3 UDFA type dude. But, you know, as we talk about, we see it happen every year. These running backs end up in a situation where, you know, they become valuable. So I'm not saying that you have to necessarily draft him. Definitely want to keep him on your radar, see what he does, where he goes. Might be a guy that even gets a look like in camp, something like that. So
yeah, I don't disagree with that. So got an interesting question. I set myself up at the 104 in this next one quarterback draft that we're going to do.
one more.
104 and 1 QB. Should I take best available or trade back? At the 104, because I don't see you getting JSN, I don't see you getting Gibbs or Bijan, realistically. I think 104 opens up the biggest first trade window in a one quarterback outside of maybe 102, because you obviously have Gibbs and JSN there. But with 104, looking at the draft, it's such a menagerie of a massive tier of players all the way to 108, 109. You may as well try to trade back, because you're going to get the same level of player at 108 or 109, and you're going to get like a second round pick for next year, possibly a first round pick for next year, depending on if you're trading in the draft. I don't think there's a realistic good reason to stay at 104 and a one quarterback unless you head and shoulders believe that, for example, Quentin Johnston is the wide receiver 1 in this class, or Jordan Addison is the wide receiver 1 in this class, and he happens to be there. Otherwise, I'm moving back 100%. Every chance I can. I think that would be the only benefit to staying at 104 is you get to pick your guy out of that tier. That's really the only benefit to me. Any other thoughts, gentlemen?
No, I think you're right on. I think there's that big 3, and I mean, I think it depends on how you feel about Jackson Smith and the Jigba as well. If you're not convinced on him, if you're not convinced on any of these wide receivers really as a top talent, it's a top 2 really in a one quarterback. Sure. So I think at the 104, there's definitely the option to trade back. And because like you said, that's kind of that weird spot where you're getting into a whole nother tier. And at that point, no matter who you pick, it's kind of a reach, you're reaching into a tier to pick the first player out of a tier of 5 players or so. So ideally, value-wise in a vacuum, you want to trade back 3 or 4 picks. But at the end of the day, if it gets you your guy in that tier, it's fine. We're not going to overthink it. At the end of the day, if you can't trade back 2-3 picks, it's fine. But, whenever you get into a big tier, if you are just trying to draft best player available, you don't need a specific position. It's best to trade down within that tier, but not out that tier.
We are all set with this next mock, gentlemen.
Yeah. And I do want to answer this question about Sean Tucker being the clear RB3 in the class.
Yes, I don't know if there's anything clear about it, in my opinion.
I was wondering that as well. So he's wondering how can Sean Tucker end up being the clear RB3? Because there's an opening for the RB3 in this class. We got Bijan, we got Gibbs, and then there's everyone else. Right now, for me, it's Tank Bigsby. But just to lay out the situation to how Sean Tucker becomes the RB3, he goes to combine, he runs a 4.2. Okay. Or 4.3 flat or something like that. Okay. That's going to put the NFL world ablaze with this guy's speed. And we're going to see some other guys who can run that fast as well, though. And then Sean Tucker gets drafted in the 2nd round. And he gets drafted to a team that doesn't necessarily have a wide open backfield, but a situation where he is going to get the majority of the passing work and some running work. If he can get that, he doesn't have to be the workhorse. If he can get the majority of the passing work and still get some in between the tackle work, then Sean Tucker could be the RB3. With that situation, with that draft capital, and with that testing, I think that's the situation where Sean Tucker becomes the RB3 in this class.
I have a follow-up, though, because I think it's hard to say that because it's not just about him. You have to factor in what all the other running backs are doing.
Well, yeah, of course, but that's the best case scenario.
Yeah, I think you need all those to break right, and you need some other guys to break left.
You need Tank to you need Tank to go in the 3rd round to the. I mean, it goes to the Vikings or something like that. I'm pretty excited about that.
Right, sure, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think the question is, should he be, even if he gets all that? If you're banking on talent, if you need all those things to break right for him, should he be RB3 in general? But I digress. We have another mock to get into. We'll talk about it later, maybe. Or maybe we won't. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to hit start on this mock. You are muted on the mock. Good. I hate that little chime to start the draft.
Yeah.
So we are.
I have a complaint.
Okay, Mike.
Man.
Derek changed his
What now?
avatar to Nate Gary wearing a Super Bowl champion t-shirt, and I am so
Love it.
enraged right now. This is what happens.
Good stuff.
This is what happens when you are a patron. You get to just relentlessly mock me. With Discord. And you know what? I don't care. It's all in good fun. I have a good time in there. So
That's what you think. That's all in good fun.
maybe they hate me. I don't know. It's fine.
As long as you think it's all in good fun.
Yeah, that's
Yes. Yes. All right. So we are rocking and rolling. We see Jahmyr Gibbs, JSN. And like I said, this is what? Well, I wasn't expecting him to be here, Mike. I didn't pick 104 to get sniped intentionally. I knew it wasn't going to happen. So this is, again, raises the question, where do we go here? Because it is this menagerie of this tier.
That's 3, Bob. That's all you get. That's all you get this morning.
That's a bevy of menageries now. And
Okay,
we're chilling
sure.
on that.
Plethora of menageries.
Ooh, I like that. But
Ooh, baby.
it is tough to pick here because, like I said, it's pick your guy out of the next 6 or 7. In all honesty, in my opinion, I'm going to go with one of the players that I think is actually the safest at this point. A player I think is going to get first-round draft capital, get on the wide receiver train in this draft class. I'm going to actually take Jordan Addison here, get him off the board because I want to get in on my wide receivers now, soak up some more value later because I think there's enough in this class. And I think with how the running backs have been falling lately, I think I'm going to be able to snag a good running back at 204 if I need to. But more likely, like I said, I would trade back in this situation because this is just, Mike, it's a 1 quarterback.
Oh, is it? I missed that. I'm sorry. Can I redo that?
We have to.
Okay.
Yeah, go back to your pick quick. You don't get to get Quentin Johnston.
That's okay. That's okay. It's not. I'm sorry about that. Forgive me, everybody.
Reading skills.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay, Mike.
My bad. My bad.
Just hurry up.
Yep.
Pick someone out of this massive tier, please. Thank you.
There we go. Oh, look at that.
Oh, running back 3,
RB3.
Sean Tucker.
There you go. Yeah.
That's all it took. That's
was-
all it took.
Just took accidentally taking CJ Stroud.
Sorry, Chev. I know I see him in the comments. I'm sorry. I wasn't. My bad.
It's okay. It's early. We'll give you a break.
I did
today,
not
I
get a lot of
guess.
sleep last night. So
Yeah, join the club.
I typically don't.
Fair enough.
I'm kind of annoyed because my drafts are just all going to look the same here.
Hey, man.
What are the
that
chances
ain't
I get
bad.
Dalton Kincaid in the 2nd round?
That ain't bad. I
I
mean,
hope
good.
Take-
Probably not. Probably
Picking
not.
up
There's
Tank Bigsby again.
there's no chance to get Kincaid in the 2nd. I'll make
Got
sure
him
of
at the
it.
210 last time.
I'll make sure of it.
It's just,
Yeah,
I think I'm
guess.
just showing how good of a draft I got last time to pick up Tank Bigsby at the 210. I mean, the 110, because I think he's a top 6, 7 talent in this draft class, and he's my RB3. I mean, I already talked about him. I think Tank Bigsby's the guy. He showed up freshman year at Auburn, produced well, and just continued to produce for 3 seasons, even though that offense really was not good. The Auburn program in general has just been kind of in turmoil up and down. They're trying to figure out their coaching staff and get some just uniformity and routine in that program. And Tank has been that. He's been that consistent rock. So I think the NFL teams are going to value that, the fact that he's been consistent throughout inconsistencies of the program. And he's just a guy that I want on my team. And hey, I would love him to go to the Vikings because I could pick him up everywhere the back half of the first because people would expect him to be behind Dalvin Cook. But there's already rumors out there that the Vikings are looking to possibly move off Cook sooner rather than later. So
Interesting.
Yep.
just throwing that one out there.
I
Thank
can't blame you.
for throwing that out there.
Yeah. I like Tank a lot. I'm a big fan. Honestly, we see in this draft running backs kind of sliding down the board. Interestingly enough, I think there is a lot of consideration where it's like kind of got to go get your wide receiver before they're all gone.
Yeah.
And, it's just going to push running back value down the board, which is kind of insane in this draft class where we think there's a ton of decent running backs, like you said, Nate. And I'm gonna snag a great running back here.
Draft running backs, trade for wide receivers.
I'm going to take Kendre Miller, a guy who I really enjoy, running back out of TCU. a very well-rounded player, in my opinion. I know, Nate, you and I discussed how running backs out of the Big 12 apparently don't do anything outside of a handful. There's never really good ones that come out, though, either. There's a handful, and that's about
Chicken or
what
the
we have
egg.
to work with. Exactly. So I like Kendra Miller a lot. I think he leaves a little bit to be desired in the receiving game. I was hoping to go with a different running back here, but all the running backs I wanted were still on the board. Not that I'm saying my first pick dictated that I go running back, still going BPA at this point, but wide receivers, just not a lot I love on the board. Kendra Miller, easily my best player on the board right now, outside of a certain player that Nate is probably going to draft here.
Almost guaranteed.
Yeah.
I mean,
I almost thought about taking Dalton Kincaid just so Nate couldn't have him. But then I did say in the last mock that I liked Luke Musgrave a little bit more. So I kind of wouldn't be true to myself.
Yes.
That's what happens when we live stream.
He's
Scotty knows what's up.
With the
Scotty
stream
does
snipe.
know. Yes, live stream.
Scotty
That's
does.
what happens with the
Scotty
live
does
stream,
know.
man.
Love it. So I want to
very
see what
good
Nate
guy.
does right here. He's probably going to go Kenny McIntosh.
No, I'm not going Kenny. I think I'm going to draft Kenny McIntosh in the
Gonna
second
take
round.
Tank Dell.
No,
No?
not a second rounder for me. Not yet.
All right.
I do want to
Not
say
yet.
something. Dwayne
Sorry.
McBride, his nickname is apparently Debo. We need to stop with the Debo nickname. Like, if anyone has ever seen the movie Friday, Debo gets beat up at the end. You realize that, right? Like, oh, he's a bully. Craig beat him up. Like, Craig should be the better nickname. I'm sorry, but we got to stop with the Debo.
Gotta stop with the Debo.
Yeah,
Too
Debo
much.
Debo got beat up. Nate,
So, Nate, where are you going?
I'm looking at wide receiver.
Milking this clock, waiting for trade
I am
offers.
milking the clock. I'm thinking.
it's okay. I don't have anything to do.
I
with
still
it.
like Parker Washington here.
Really?
It's a
Okay.
guy
I
that
think
we
it's
haven't
a
been
little
talking
bit
about
early for Parker Washington, to be honest.
too
with you.
much. I had him as a mid-second round pick, and it's just because he's been quiet. He hasn't been at the Senior Bowl, so no one's been talking about him.
He, I believe, is still recovering from that injury that he suffered.
Yeah.
So which
I
believe
also
is-
still have Rashee Rice on the board, which is a guy I could be going after. But I think there's a couple wide receivers here, and I just got to make the choice. I am going to go with Rashee Rice because he is probably still projected for the best draft capital of all these guys, and I think I'm kind of reaching into a tier here where I think the talent is rather similar. So I think Rashee Rice, he's a guy that for a while there got some back end of the first round hype, but I think he's more of a second rounder. I don't think he has the elite traits to be a first round, especially in this NFL draft class. But he's a day 2 pick, and even though he shrunk a little bit when they got the measurements in, I still think he's a guy that I'm going to be targeting at the back half of the second.
They did say it was pretty cold in Mobile this week, so
Yeah.
some shrinkage issues.
Yeah.
I
maybe
guess.
he was in the
Happens-
pool. I don't know.
happens to
He
the
might have
best
been.
of us.
It happens.
I love Cedric
right.
Tillman at the 210. I want to throw that out there. I love that pick. I think Cedric Tillman's going to be a really, really good NFL wide receiver.
I like him more than I like Jalen Hyatt,
So here's the thing:
for
Jalen
whatever
Hyatt
that's worth.
could possibly have the higher ceiling with his skill set, the speed. But I think Cedric Tillman is a guy that does everything right. And let's not forget, it took Cedric Tillman getting injured for Jalen Hyatt to have his breakout year. So those are things that are worth noting. Cedric Tillman's going to get hate. It took him like 4 years to break out. He's a fifth-year senior. He's going to be old. I wish I was old at 23 for the record. But I love Cedric Tillman, what he brings to the table. Big, physical, good possession guy. At the 210, sign me up for sure.
All right.
For sure.
Ooh.
It was quite the
X-Man goes off at the 3-1.
I love
yes,
that.
sir.
Love it.
All right, I'm locked into a player I like here at 304.
Tell me who it is.
I will wait. No,
I can't
no,
get him.
too bad. You get to wait.
We already seen someone get sniped
Yeah,
because of this live stream.
And it was
true.
you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I gotta wait. Yeah, good point, Nate. I was about to spill the beans. I don't want to though, so I'll just wait. Oh, perfect. Now they're both here. Well, I'm gonna take the one that I think is more exciting.
More
I'm gonna
gooder.
take Tyjae Spears here.
I like
Guy
that
who
too.
won the Senior Bowl. I think there are a few players who just have elite burst
Mhm.
and can just turn it off and on and at the flick of a switch. And I think Tyjae Spears, similar to what like Jalen Waddle can do, where just all of a sudden he's going faster. Like it doesn't take more steps. He's just going faster now.
Yeah.
It's just uncanny how he does it. I don't know. I love the Dell pick after Mike. I like that pick a lot as well.
I did see,
hashtag
I
ours.
forget who it was. Somebody said that I think that was Rondale Moore, except 30 pounds lighter.
Yes, Daniel.
Well, I mean, he's also been healthy his career, unlike Rondale Moore. So,
sure.
I was never a Rondale Moore guy. But I
like him now. I like Rondale Moore now.
Mm.
I like his value now.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be the wide receiver you want in that team if you need to have an Arizona
if you want a wide receiver
for some reason.
I still think
that's the one you go get based on value. Based on values is I would much rather have Hollywood, but I think based on if I have to go acquire one or the other, I'm getting Rondale Moore for a heck of a lot cheaper than I'm getting Marquise Brown, and I don't think their production this year is going to be too far off from each other. So that is assuming that Rondale Moore can bandage himself together for a few weeks more than normal. So
Marvin Mims at 3.9. Beautiful.
Big assumption. But did Izzy Abanaconda get drafted in the last draft?
I don't believe so.
No, he did.
He did?
Pretty sure he was at the back end of the third round. I could verify if you want.
Back end. He was the 312.
Okay, all right. I just missed him. I was watching for him, and I'm like,
oh, do you think you're funny, Derek? Now you're sniping me. You change your picture of that. Now you're taking Eric Gray at the 311. That's a great. I think that's great value for Eric Gray at the 311. Seriously,
I agree.
Dwayne McBride at the 312. I like that as well. So,
how about Luke Musgrave at the 3.8?
Beautiful.
I picked up some great value there.
I agree. Yeah,
Nate, you're just all about the value.
I'm always about value. I'm a value drafter.
Great value.
That's how it goes.
Best value available. That's Nate. Instead of best player, best value available.
Best value available.
Hey, there's worse draft strategies out there, I've heard. Yep. So
sometimes
my guide falls to me here.
I like to say sometimes it's not about who you're drafting, it's about who you're not drafting.
Sure.
Oh, come on.
Perfect.
One more.
There's no chance, Mike. There's no chance. There's no chance.
No cursing on the live stream. Damn it.
Jaden Reed in the fourth round is silly value.
I'll figure something out.
There's no chance he's sitting here. This is poor sleeper ADP, if anything. But I will take it. I will take it. Michael Wilson's still there. We both liked him for whatever it's worth.
He is. You know what? I'm actually going to take.
Titus Swen's still there.
Darnell Washington.
Let's talk about Charlie Jones for a minute.
Yes, let's
do it.
Talk
about Charlie.
Charlie Jones is a guy, doing some scouting on there's a tight end there that I will be obnoxiously talking about. Why is Payne Durham? You'll be hearing a lot of Payne Durham talk from this guy. But Charlie Jones, dude, you want to talk about a really good, he was like 6 foot, good slot receiver, good hands, pretty decent after the catch. Charlie Jones is going to be a super value, I think. I think he does get drafted. I think he's like an early day 3 type guy. Poor Charlie Jones, though, prayers up playing in Iowa for a couple years. Just that's like a death sentence for wide receivers, it feels like.
Yeah.
But he did go to Purdue last year, had a really great season. So, let's go. Charlie Jones fired up.
Charlie Jones.
I went back to the tight end. Best value available, and that was Darnell Washington.
I like that pick in the 4th round.
He's not going to be there in regular drafts, because Washington, he's gonna get at least day 2 draft capital, and with his size, even if Darnell Washington isn't a guy that puts up fantasy points on a week-to-week basis with receptions and receiving yards, he's a guy that is going to be guaranteed touchdowns. At 6'8", sure. At worst, I think he's Kyle Rudolph. I think that's kind of what he is. I think he's Kyle Rudolph. I think he's a guy that. Terrible. No, I think he's going to be a guy that, gets that touchdown upside. He's not going to go out there and, average 15 points a game like Travis Kelce or anything. He's not going to be, averaging 5 catches for 60, 70 yards a game. Might be more like 2 or 3 catches for 30 or so yards, 40 yards. But those touchdowns, that's where he's going to be valuable.
The worst draft in this one was the 111. Terrible. Just all around terrible, Derek. Do better.
It all started with the avatar. That was the worst part about it.
Derek's a great guy, though. Seriously.
Bob, did you drop the other mock yet?
I did not. No. You guys have time for one more?
Got it.
If it's quick, yes.
Okay. Give me 2 shakes.
The next one, super flex. Mike needs to know.
Yes,
All right,
it
hold
is.
on.
Yes, it
Okay.
is. It is
All right.
super flex.
Thank you. All right, well, listen, CEO is going to excuse himself for a restroom break quick, and then I will be right back.
That sounds grand. Okay, bye, Mike.
It's just Bob and I know.
Yep, it's the Bob and Nate show.
Holding down the live stream. So, to be quite honest, I'm not super happy with my second round pick. I mean, I like Rice, but I felt like after Kincaid went.
Where would you go after, though? Where would you,
exactly?
Like, honestly,
I could have considered Hyatt, but honestly, I'm not a huge fan of Hyatt. I mostly draft Hyatt based off of his predicted upside, draft capital, possible role in the NFL. If I'm just drafting based on how I feel about players, I'm not drafting Hyatt in the second round at all, probably. But because of where he's expected to get drafted and the situation that usually comes with that, the opportunity that usually comes with that, I have to consider him in the second round. But also I think some similar things with Rashee Rice. I like him a little bit more than Hyatt as all around wide receiver. I don't know if he gets quite the opportunity that Hyatt gets, but I think if he's given anywhere close to the same opportunity, I think he has the safer floor of the two. But Hyatt really does have some upside there. So I understand the Hyatt pick. I think 212 is a pretty good value for that guy.
I agree. I think that's, back into the second. Because like I said, with your Rice pick, I'm like, who else are you going to take there? Yeah. In all honesty, you're kind of at the same position you are there with the 104, except it's less valuable by a good margin. But you're still reaching into another tier. I think you picked the best player out of that tier, in my opinion. I like Xavier Hutchinson.
Yeah.
But I'd still take Rice because I'm more confident in the draft capital. I like Tyjae Spears. I really like him that I got him at 3-4.
I thought about Tyjae Spears there.
But I don't want to be the person who starts working him up draft boards more than he needs to be. I don't want to be that person. I hope he stays in the third round for a little while, and then we'll go from there. So, yeah. We do have a good question here from our buddy Chris. My homies and I are about to have our first rookie draft this year. Any suggestions how to make it go smooth or typical things we should be doing? Definitely slow draft. Definitely in draft trading. Because if you don't do a slow draft, you can't really even do trading. Like in this scenario, we can't really work trades.
Yeah.
You could try to work them really quickly, but you're just going to end up making yourself panic and stressed for most of the draft, and you're not going to enjoy it. These drafts are meant to be enjoyed. You're supposed to have fun drafting your rookies. It's like the Christmas for dynasty players, getting a bunch of new toys for your team. So I definitely suggest slow draft. If it's not linear this year, set it up to be linear wherever picks aren't traded from. All rookie drafts should be linear. Startup drafts can be serpentine, or snake. But
look,
that's the original term.
I just appreciate the continued verbiage and vocabulary, diction, rhetoric on this channel.
I'll tell you what, those Wisconsin parochial schools out there, man, they really
we rank in the top 12. Thank you very much.
So you're a
somewhere like
parochial
that.
School 1 in the country.
Yes,
you rank in the top 12.
Yep. Yeah, sure.
Let's give it up for Bob and his scholastic aptitude.
We don't need to do that. I'm no scholar. But make sure we're doing a linear draft because that puts the most valuable pick on the teams that need them. With the worser teams get the better picks. If you do it the other way, you're just helping good teams stay good. That's the last thing I'll say. But I'm going to see there is another trade question here. Trade Eckler for a 24 first and the 206 this year and a 1 quarterback. Thoughts on this trade? I'm fine with it. If you're not looking to compete anymore, you're trying to reset. I think it's reasonable value. I think you might be able to get more at some point, but if you also run the risk of missing out on trading the guy, if you wait till in season, and I know it's kind of playing scared, you wait till in season, he gets hurt. Now he has no value to a competing team. Yeah, that's the only thought.
Yeah, he is not getting draft capital this year.
Well, you got the 206, but
first this year. Sorry,
with not getting a 23 first. Then I would look at this and say, why would I do this move now?
Sure.
Because you're trading Eckler at low value. He's going to have more value in August. I mean, unless he gets injured in preseason, he's going to have more value in August than he is going to have right now.
Sure. Yeah.
You can still get the same value, if not more. So I would just say I'd hold on to him unless I got a better deal.
What if you got the, let's say 106, if that player has it, that person has it, and a 24-second instead? Would you be on for that deal instead?
I'd be more willing to make that move now. I still think I could get more value out of it, especially in a one quarterback league, because at the 106, I'm not picking up a top talent in the draft. So, value wise, unless I'm really just going through a rebuild and just need to move off my assets, I think we need to get more from Eckler. I mean, we're talking about the guy, he might not have too many years left, but the production wise, I mean, I think you can get this kind of deal in season at least, if not more. And I think that's the value here, is that you're going to be able to get a better value later.
Yeah.
When people are trying to set their lineups.
Yeah. I don't disagree at all. See if there's any other questions while we're waiting. Any other Senior Bowl takeaways that we want to talk about? Anybody have notes they want to dive into besides the quarterbacks all being really bad? I definitely want to note that. I had more harsh things to say in my notes, but
yeah, I mean, I thought
those for my notes.
Evan Hall looked pretty good. He looked patient. He looked strong. He created some chunk plays. Unfortunately, I don't think he has the athleticism to really stand out in the NFL. But just as a runner, he looked good. And, there is value in that. I think he might have played himself out of the UDFA range and maybe played himself into a 6th, 7th round pick. We'll see if he gets there. He still might be UDFA just because he doesn't have the top speed that, a lot of teams are looking for in the running back position. Outside of that, Jake Haener, I thought, was the best quarterback, and he was the one that won the award. But I thought he looked the best.
Yeah. Not saying much in my opinion, but I agree. I agree.
He was comped to Brock Purdy during the cast,
which I think is silly.
Because he's 6 foot. Make some plays.
I think that, if Brock Purdy wouldn't have done what he did this year, he wouldn't have been comped to Brock Purdy, because he's comped to Brock Purdy because he's going to be a late day 3 pick at best. So I think that's more about, well, this is why this is exciting to watch for you. And it's going to give people way too lofty expectations.
Yes, I agree.
I definitely agree. He was the best quarterback there. I think it would have been nice if Will Levis was there to at least practice so we could see, have a comparable, or even Stetson Bennett. He was invited as well, did not go, decided it was more important to get drunk and disorderly, or whatever it was. Whatever it was that he got in trouble for. So he decided that was better than the Senior Bowl. But
idiot.
It was that just hurts his draft stock for me that much more, quote Mike. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't think, let me try to pull up my notes quick, see if I have anything to add quick. Are we still waiting for one?
Still waiting on one more. The other thing I have, 2 other guys I want to mention real quick. Cameron Peoples. Fortunately, the guy can't catch.
He did make 2 more impressive catches than the ones that were gifted to him later in the game. In the 4th quarter, he made 2 contorting catches and stuff. And I'm like, but we can't make the easy ones.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
And that's what I expect. Cameron Peoples, I kind of looked at him going into the Senior Bowl, coming out of Appalachian State, as kind of that more in between the tackles guy. The receiving upside isn't, not saying he can't catch. Obviously, in the 4th quarter, he made some decent catches, but he's not the natural receiver that, some of these other running backs are. And when you would get to the NFL, I mean, I'm not saying, at the end, Cameron Peoples can catch. He probably can catch better than any of us can catch. But the NFL is. Mike's like, nah, I'm out there like Julian Edelman.
I got a jugs machine in my backyard. I don't even want to hear it.
Of course you do. But when you're playing in the NFL, you have to be the top of the top. And Cameron Peoples, he just isn't as natural of a receiver as the other guys. He's more of an in-between the tacklers kind of guy.
Long between the tackles.
Yeah. And then I have to give credit where credit's due. Mike, Payne Durham looks good.
I've been said that.
He's still tight end 12 in this class.
That's fine. You know what? I think Payne Durham has a Daniel Bellinger-like ascension, like a mid-round draft pick in a bad situation, and he becomes a starter, and all of a sudden you scooping him up in the 4th, 5th round of your rookie drafts or as a UDFA, it pays off big time. And if you never start him, but you trade him for something that you like better or better draft capital, that is a win-win-win. Nate, let's get that mock up and let's roll.
Yeah,
Roll through this one quick. I gotta go to Costco.
Let's go. While you're getting that up, Nate, I'm going to talk this question here. I find myself in a weird position with a quarterback in Dynasty. I roster Jalen Hurts, Tua, Geno, Mitch Trubisky, and Brock Purdy. Do you think I should wait on Tua to see if he plays the season or avoid the risk? Tua shouldn't be a concern anymore. He just passed the concussion protocol, so he should be good on that. There was the whole thing about him retiring because of concussions, and it seems like that's all passed too. So I don't think there's really any risk with Tua right now, in my opinion. I would not
want to trade him,
panic sell or anything
first.
Yeah, you're not getting value right now anyway. His value's tanked right now. So either which way, I don't think you trade him now, whether you agree or disagree that, but I don't see him not playing come season. What are your thoughts, Nate? Because you clearly have different ones while we get this mock started.
Yeah, I mean, I'm moving off.
Nice.
I'm moving off Tua in most of the leagues I have him. I just think, once again, mitigating risk. Those concussions really worry me, and one more, and hey, we might be done. So I'm moving off of him. I do agree you got to let him play a game because his value is not there, but let him play a couple games, get those stats back up, and people get excited. And then I'm moving off Tua for a lateral move that just feels safer, probably.
Sure.
Mitigate it.
100%. Nate, where are you going in this super flex mock? Are you going Bryce Young here?
I am absolutely going to go Bijan Robinson.
Bijan Robinson.
Alrighty then.
Bijan Mustard over here.
Bijan Mustard.
Yeah. So, I mean, easy pick. I don't have to say too much about this. We know it's the 101. Every single draft, doesn't matter for Superflex or one quarterback. We're getting what we expect to be one of the top running backs in the NFL. Getting him from his rookie year. Not going to be worried about it if it doesn't look super great his first couple games because got time.
Saquon didn't look good at first either.
Yeah, neither Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. So real quick, want to talk CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. CJ Stroud going ahead of Bryce Young, I should say more specifically. Our Discord, awesome analytic was dropped in there that basically as the play develops and there's more time playing, Bryce Young is a much better quarterback once the play extends to 4 seconds or more. However, in the interim, CJ Stroud is a much better quarterback. So it's very interesting to have those two dynamics kind of play out. I think that means that CJ Stroud just needs to be in a, favorable quarterback situation, or in at least a friendly quarterback system, I should say, where it's a lot of timing throws and things like that. And I think he can be fine. I think it does cap his elite upside. We're looking maybe at a career quarterback 12 versus what Bryce Young could be, a career quarterback top 8 or so, top 9, top 10. And CJ Stroud kind of middles around that quarterback 1-2 fringe throughout the rest of his career.
I think the thing with CJ Stroud is, where's the upside? Because are you just drafting Kirk Cousins? Which is not bad. Which is not bad. Kirk Cousins is a great fantasy quarterback. He gets so much hate, but he's constantly finishing between quarterback 10, 12, 15. And, that's not your quarterback 1, but he is one of the most solid quarterback 2s you could have had over the past couple of years.
Yep.
Hey, listen, that's fine. I'll take a guy who's a career Kirk Cousins over a guy who I don't think his body can withstand the punishment of the NFL. So would I rather have a high-end quarterback 2 or a guy who maybe has a couple good years and then is just constantly injured? I'm going to take Coleridge any day of the week.
And that's where the question of is, I like CJ Stroud, but do I want him at the 102 if I'm looking at
100%
that kind of limited ceiling?
Yep, for
maybe
sure.
Maybe not. I'd probably take my chances on Gibbs or maybe Jackson the Jigba or Addison. But also at the same time, you lock up that quarterback 2 position and that's
the world opens up a little bit.
It really does. It really does.
I don't hate the pick at all.
Especially in this current quarterback landscape where it seems pretty desolate after the first 12 or so guys.
If that, honestly, outside of top 10, it's kind of
decrepit,
questionable. Nate, since you were moving on from Tua, do you think a move like Tua for Trey Lance would be smart since I roster Brock Purdy?
Once again, we're talking about mitigating risk.
You're going risk to risk. Yes.
Yeah, we're just going risk to risk. It's quite the lateral move here.
I don't know.
If I'm going to move off Tua, I want something safer, and I value Tua more than Trey Lance at this point.
Yes.
So if I'm going to move Tua for Trey Lance, I want Trey Lance plus.
Yes.
And I'm going to want something good on top of Trey Lance because of that risk. So I'm going to want like Trey Lance in the 24 first or Trey Lance in the 23 first. And then that's where I'm looking to move off Tua. But for less than that, with the risk that's involved between the two of these guys, it's just a lateral move. I want to get safer.
Nate, while you're making your pick, you're the only one that thinks Jordan Addison is the wide receiver 1 in this class. So this argument's up to you.
So I'll be quite honest. It's not so much what Jordan Addison can do, which he can do a lot. I compliment Devonta Smith, and I think he can make a lot of moves. He might not be the top 10 wide receiver in Dynasty after his rookie or sophomore year, but I think he's a guy that's going to sit there and be a really solid top 24 wide receiver for his career. And when it comes to the other guys, Quentin Johnston's too boom or bust for me to be the wide receiver 1, and Jackson Smith-Njigba just has too many question marks for me at the moment with where is he going to go NFL draft wise? What does the NFL think of him after this injury and being out for a full year? How rusty is he? Those are the questions I'm kind of coming up with right now. And just Jordan Addison has the least amount of questions. You've been hearing me talking about mitigating risk, and that's why Jordan Addison is my wide receiver 1 right now, just because I don't trust anyone else.
I have a follow-up question. Who's your 201?
Well, you got the whiz. I got to figure out who my 201
Maybe you should let him make the pick before you ask him to explain something.
I know.
We weren't up to his pick yet.
I never asked who my wide receiver 1 was in the class, because it is Jordan Addison. For all the same reasons that Nate said. I love Jordan Addison. You can boo me all you want. That's
I'm going to take Josh Downs.
All right.
I'm going to take Josh Downs because I still love Josh Downs, despite what I feel like a lot of people moving off Josh Downs here recently. I think I said something about, Zay Flowers is obviously the 5th guy after JSN, Addison, Quentin Johnston, and Josh Downs. And Mike over here is like, you really think Josh Downs is better than Zay Flowers? I'm like, hell yeah.
Yes.
Come on, Bob, back me up here.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you 100%. I love Josh Downs. He's easily a top 5 for me in this class.
Yeah.
Easily. Pushing for probably number 3, if I'm being totally honest. But question from Rubber Bandit, our boy. I have excess of draft picks compared to roster spots with the 208 and 209. What pick do you think I could trade up to get? Honestly, I think you could probably target the late first or the early second, I think, pretty easily with these 2 picks, especially see what kind of capital they're working with. Do they have 2 firsts and maybe no seconds? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's something where you can, spread out some picks for them. That's kind of the targeting I would try to do on that.
I would say start around. I mean, my expectation would probably be like the 110. Probably be trying to move for like the 110. I might start in like the 108. See what I can do. If it takes those 2 picks and maybe a third on top to get to the 108 versus just those 2 picks for the 110, I'd much rather have the 108. I mean, look, Mike's picking up Tank Bigsby at the 108. I'll take the 108 all day.
Yeah, for sure.
Or if you're talking about late first, you can get Sean Tucker, Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah, I mean, I love the value of the first round this year. I think with the running back landscape, we have a lot of guys getting old. I was talking to someone earlier this week about the 2017 draft class and the running backs that we had come out. That was the draft class. It was 2017, correct? With CMC and
I believe so.
Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette, all those running backs that have been the running backs of the NFL for the past 5-6 years. They're all getting old now. They're all on to their second contract. They're all a year or 2 into their second contract, and they're all starting to kind of hit that kind of slope down after their peak, which means we got to turn over the running back position at the NFL. And I think this class and the next class are the new NFL running backs. And I think there's a lot. No, not saying that all of these guys are going to end up being the top guys in the league, but you're going to have a lot of starters come out of this class and next year's class. And I think you got to just pick up the running back value here. So there's value in the first round, but we've only picked up 5 running backs so far, and we've gone through 16 picks. So the second round, I think, has so much value that, I love the first 16 or so picks.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
18,
all these are
24.
solid. Yeah. I really I went to get Dalton Kincaid because I hadn't been able to draft him yet today. I probably would have taken Kendre Miller in most circumstances, but I was pretty happy taking Kincaid so I could have him on one of my fictitious rosters for a little bit. Speaking of tight ends, though, we do have a question. Our league just went to 2 points per reception. Jesus Christ. Tight end premium. How much more value does that add to someone like Kittle? And I think he wants to go acquire him. I think he actually asked this question before and I missed it. So apologies, Kenneth. What is that? What value does that add? What would be an equivalent player value, either running back or wide receiver, it would cost for him? I think you can go get TJ Hawkinson for cheaper. That's going to be my counterpoint. But I think he's similar to a wide receiver 2 value at that point, high-end-ish wide receiver 2 value. But like I said, I'd rather go grab Hawkinson for less because I think he's still a pretty serious value at this point. What are your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I mean, well, you're asking how much value does it add to someone like Kittle? It adds 60 more fantasy points. Yeah, that is the actual answer. And 60 more fantasy points. I mean, what we're looking at, how many per week? Someone can do the quick math for me. How many per week? We're looking at just under 20 weeks.
3 more points per week.
A little bit over 3 points.
Yes.
That brings George Kittle up to a guy that can win you weeks. Certainly win you a week or two and at the tight end position. So I think when you have a tight end premium like that, you need to go after the stud tight ends because they can make or break your week. And when you're trying to win a championship, you need that extra, X factor in your lineup. So I think a guy like George Kittle, he doesn't have quite the, upside dynasty wise as Mark Andrews. I know we like TJ Hawkinson a lot, but Kittle's a little bit older, but you still got to go after a guy like that. I think he's going to still have a really good couple of years in that 2 to 3 year dynasty window.
I'd rather have Hawkinson for 5 more years than Kittle for 2 at a cheaper cost.
Do you think you can get Hawkinson cheaper?
100%. Everything I've seen, looking at recent trades on DLF still, DLF's ADP, everything like this, he is still valued lower than Kittle in pretty much every single format I've looked at. And despite having an incredible season, after being traded midway through the season, one of the big knocks for tight ends is always you need to adapt to a new playbook and be brought into the system or whatever. And he did that so quickly. He was a feature in that offense. They don't need to go get a wide receiver 2 now because they already have a receiver 2 on that team now, in which with Hawkinson. I don't see a reason not to go get him, especially for, even if you go acquire him and he's what he's been the last 3 years of his career, darn, still a great player.
Yep.
So in all honesty, at the value right now, I think you're picking him up at fair value, more than fair value, and everything else you get is upside. As long as he's healthy. I know it's a big F for everybody, but as long as he's healthy, it's a game changer, in my opinion, to go get him right now. Nate, who are you picking here at 301?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm not used to picking at the 101. I know Mike is, but I'm not used to being here.
My teams are usually too good.
I
trade for the 101 before it's the 101, Nate. I'm there all the time.
I see.
I got big brain tendencies over here.
Yeah. I think I'm going wide receiver here. I don't think there's a running back.
Menagerie.
God.
I put on the smart boy glasses.
Heard that word way too many times today already.
A bit, yeah.
I'll find new ones.
I'm running out of time here. I got to pick somebody. I'm going to go with my man Parker Washington. I know he's been quiet on the Parker Washington front here recently, but I don't think that means he's any less talented. We were big fans of him about a month ago, because he checks all the boxes as a wide receiver. He has the ability to create yards after the catch. If Parker Washington had been at the Senior Bowl, he would have been the best wide receiver at the Senior Bowl, I believe. So just because he didn't go to the Senior Bowl and get to show out like Tank did, like Jaden Reed did, I don't think it makes him any worse of an NFL draft prospect. So I'm happy to pick him up here at the beginning of the 3rd round. I think he's the top of this next wide receiver tier that includes Jaden Reed, Xavier Hutchinson, and Tank Dell.
Don't hate it. Don't hate it one bit.
But really, I'd be happy with any of those guys really at the wide receiver position at this point.
Would anyone like to roast me for Zach Evans at the 2.8?
No,
I think that's good value.
Because Derek says it's a bad pick. Here's my thought. So I'm going off of, I saw a mock where Zach Evans went to the Bears. All right. And if David Montgomery's not re-signed, and it's Khalil Herbert and Zach Evans, where he doesn't have to be the guy, but he has some times to maybe acclimate to the NFL game, maybe try, I think
That would
he
be
can be
nice.
something. And at the 2.8, I'm gladly I'll take that risk there. But look, watching Zach Evans, this is why he's one of my lowest ranked running back prospects. He's really inconsistent. It's almost like he doesn't care. He doesn't try. TCU at Zach Evans better than Ole Miss Zach Evans. So, my thought.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
definitely some worries with Zach Evans. We talked about that pretty extensively here in this show. But
Great pick, Bob.
Thank you.
Eric Gray.
I
Eric
like
Gray
it.
is a guy that we have really seen rise up over the past week or two.
He's
Yes.
already rising up from the first mock till now. What was he? The
Yeah.
4.2,
Something
the
like
first
that.
one.
Yeah.
And Mike said you're not going to be able to get him here again, and look what's happened.
Never again.
Told you.
Well, and our boy Caleb ruining Tyjae Spears as a value at this point, up to the 211 from the 304 last draft. Now we're, pushing him way, way, way up the board. And here we go. This is the problem. This is what we do. We get too excited. And now, Tyjae Spears, who is probably once going to be a value, is going to end up a first round rookie pick at this rate. Honestly, what's stopping him in the second round? We already have discussed that. If I think we saw Dameon Pierce go in the first round last year, Nate, there's no chance that Spears ain't going there.
No
chance.
Last
maybe
year,
not that he should.
Damian Pierce went in the first one last year because there was no one after Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker. So you had to reach for RB3 because heck, if you didn't get your guy, there was no running backs left. This year, Tyjae Spears needs a lot to happen for him to be a first round pick because he's not going to be one of the top 5 guys drafted off the board by the NFL teams. And because of that, and with the other talent in this draft class, I don't see any way he's a first round pick. I could see him getting up to the beginning of the second, which I guess at that point he will randomly be in first rounds for people who like him. But I think Tyjae Spears is going to end up kind of that early at best, but mid second round pick.
Yeah.
There's just too many other running backs, I think.
Touching on Brian's point, I think 211 at the end of the day is great value for Spears.
I agree.
I think the issue is we're just going to keep inching him up the board. That's just the natural order of how players go. They just naturally, once they start getting hype, you'll see them start ticking up the board. The ADP will keep rising, and all the ADP Bible drafters will keep. Well, I want to get my guy before his ADP.
Yep,
that'll just naturally tick up the ADP more and more. And I think I would not be the least bit surprised a running back ending up at the back end of first rounds. Super flex, you have the argument because you actually have quarterbacks worth drafting this year, but we'll see. We'll see. Brian, good, decent enough counterpoint. He'll fall back down after the underclassmen enter the chat.
Possible.
Maybe. It's possible, but it could also be that, there's not a chance that, he blows up the combine and other players don't.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I think this is the Senior Bowl. I think this is Tyjae Spears' peak. Unless he really blows up the combine. But at that point, there's other guys that we know are going to blow up the combine. Devin Achane, Sean Tucker, Zach Evans probably. We're going to see other people get their hype. Tyjae Spears just has his moment right now.
Yeah.
I still think he's going to end up moving up some. But right now, he's pushing people down. There's going to be other people later that move up, and therefore he's going to be pushed down a little bit. So if you're playing a Devy league and you have Tyjae Spears, a week or two from now might be the best time to sell him. Quite honestly.
Possibly.
Maybe. I'm not saying sell Tyjae Spears just because you have him, but if you get someone really good, I think his value is probably going to be peaking here.
I would say that Tyjae is definitely scaling upwards, though, for sure.
Certainly. Scale is incredible. Speaking of scaling, there's a lot of Georgia running backs, and I got to pick one. And there's one in this draft class, Kenny McIntosh, who I think is a good value in the 4th round because of the pass catching upside that he brings. So I'm going to go ahead and pick him at the 401. It didn't look super great at the Senior Bowl game yesterday. He had a couple drops, unlike him because he was, such a good receiving back at Georgia. But I think the tape speaks for itself. He's probably a 4th round pick. I don't think he's a day 2 guy, which is why he ends up here at the 401. But like I said, with his receiving upside, he should have a role in the NFL. And hey, when I'm looking at day 3 running backs, I'm looking at guys who can catch the ball.
Sure. 100% agree.
Because they're only going to get so much opportunity, and I got to get them the best, most efficient running backs out there for fantasy.
1,000%. Adam chiming in again. Is it possible to trade 2-3, 208 for a first round pick? I think 100%. Absolutely. I don't think there's any, you're only moving back depending on how you want to go. I don't think you're getting like 106. I think that might be a little rich, but I think anywhere 108, 109.
Yep.
Decent enough chance. You're only moving you're moving a handful of picks back. You're picking up an extra later pick. I think it's reasonable to expect that type of outcome and be able to do that. So I'm waiting on Gator. Then I'm going to make my last pick of this draft. And I did not get sniped, which is good. I'm kind of torn here. I'm going to go Michael Wilson again. We're talking Senior Bowlers, Senior Bowl guys. I think this guy really showed out. He's worked his way onto draft boards. We did just expand to a 4-round draft starting today. And tomorrow on the channel, there will be a couple mocks on there too. But just, we talked about it earlier, the suddenness with the route running and things like that. Just if he gets anywhere day 3, which I think he will now. We saw a great producer in college when he was healthy. That was the big caveat, being healthy. That's obviously going to be a concern in the NFL as well. So we'll just have to see what happens. But it helps he has the tools to start with. The other guy I was thinking about going with is Darnell Washington, but he wasn't a Senior Bowler, so I didn't draft him. So there. But also pretty late pick, I think, for Darnell Washington for most drafts we've seen him in. I think, Nate, you picked him up in the 4th and the last mock, actually.
I did.
So I think that I'm always kind of, I always feel like tight ends drop because they're not as exciting in a lot of drafts. So I think there's a good chance that we see these guys later. Mike
excites me. I love tight ends. I'm a tight end whisperer.
Yeah, we know.
I think this is the best time to get tight ends. Last year, mid-end of the 3rd, going into the 4th round, that is the time to pick up tight ends because
I don't disagree.
They don't have the sexy upside, but they actually have a lot of upside because their position is just empty. Yeah. So you're picking up guys in the 3rd, 4th round who end up, a couple of them end up being, tight end 2s, which, we don't get super excited about. But when you're picking up depth for your lineup in the 3rd, 4th round, the value is really there with the tight ends. And we were picking up guys like Greg Dulcich, Daniel Bellinger, a bunch of rookie tight ends who broke out, and showed some promise last year. We're picking up those guys in the mid to late rounds of rookie drafts. I think same thing this year. Guys like Darnell Washington, Payne Durham. I think we're going to see a similar thing to last year where we have those mid-round tight ends who are actually day 2 picks in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
We're going to be picking up in the 3rd, 4th round, and they're going to be filling out your lineup and valuable to your team.
Yeah, Nate, real quick, Mike, before you chime in, I think, Nate, why you like this tier so much is it's similar to the concept of drafting day 2 wide receivers before you draft day 3 running backs.
Yep.
This is the same concept of before drafting day 3 wide receivers and running backs, draft day 2 and day 3 tight ends, early day 3 tight ends. Because these guys, they just naturally kind of have an easier route to playing. You're taking a lot of upside swings, and Greg Dulcich and Chigo Okonkwo can't really get you a lot right this second. But those are kind of almost lottery picks that are maybe more likely than the Justin Rosses you were picking up at the end of the 5th or free agency at the end of the last draft. So I think that's a really good point to make.
You could have flipped Chig for a mid-second about a month or 2 ago,
probably,
and you probably picked him up in the 4th round. Talk about profit.
Yeah, exactly. So that is one of the goals is when you acquire players or draft players, find ways to get more value and turn the picks over, re-roll, so you can get yourself Kendre Miller, or which I think will do a lot more for your lineup than most Chigo Okonkwos or Greg Dulciches, as much as I like those players. Running back 2 value versus back end of tight end 1 value. There's no chance. I'm like, there's just no close comparison to be had there. So, Michael, what were you going to add with your tight ends? You were going to say something before I cut you off so rudely.
I actually don't remember now.
I'm sorry. I feel bad now.
It's all right. I'm old.
3 mocks though.
3 mocks, boys.
How about it?
We did it. And the best part is, Nate, you and I aren't done drafting.
No, we're not.
We're going to go draft for our rookie mock draft Monday, double mock draft Monday, DMDM. Whoa, crazy.
Ooh.
So we're going to go do that, but we're going to do that with our patrons. So that'll be up on the channel tomorrow. If you want to join for that, the link is in the description and on this beautiful ticker below us.
Hope to see you there.
Rolling across the screen. We will see y'all there. Mike, anything you guys want to add before we head on out of here?
Thanks for coming hanging out with us on this beautiful Sunday morning. Every Sunday morning is beautiful when we do a live stream. There will be a few more around draft time. So, a lot of people ask for it, but it's one of those things where if we don't have anything to say, we don't talk for no reason. So
we want to make it special.
That's right.
Special.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Always special.
This is we love, we've seen the comments, some of you guys out here saying, keep up the good work. We appreciate what you guys are doing. That means the world to us. We're out here.
Yes.
We're out here just trying to help you guys out, trying to just dive deeper, get more information, and just share that content. So thank you guys. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. Thanks for coming up and pop into the Patreon because we have a lot of fun over there.
Yeah, that's how we're scaling up to bring you more content. That's how you can scale up for your dynasty team. So, gentlemen, if it's okay with you, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. So, Kurt, I love your last name. Just got to get rid of the S on there. That's it, guys. I think we're going to end it here. Does that sound good?
That sounds good to me, Mike.
All right.
Love you all.
So, thank you again for hanging out with us. Oh, see, that's a good hard hands. I'm not good at that. I don't know. My hand.
Just stop using your hands, Mike.
How do you have trouble doing that? It's like a very easy thing to do.
He's using his hands.
Pretty sure your daughter can do that, and she's 4.
Yeah, she's perfect. All right. So, everybody, thank you very much for watching again. Until next time, for Nate, for Bob, I'm your host, Michael Bauer. Be kind. Please rewind. Thank you for watching.